once again it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 131. That's right, 131 of Toss, the Tristain on Sports Show. It is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us. This week, in State of the State, we talk Bucks basketball. The playoffs have begun. They ain't exactly off to a great start, and it hurts. We'll talk. The Milwaukee Brewers. Crew off to a good start. Win a series. And they actually appear to be balanced. We'll discuss. And then the toss sweep. We are now approaching week 10, but we got to look back at week 9 of the XFL season. Man, it's been a good year for the XFL. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state, where we discuss the state of sports in the state of Wisconsin. And we have to start off with the Milwaukee Bucks. We got to start off with the Bucks because playoff action is now upon us. Fear the Deer season is now upon us. Everyone was hyped and ready for Game 1, Eastern Conference, first round. The Heat winning their second play-in game. To make it to the 8th seed. All but written off. Going up against the juggernaut and the 1 seed. Milwaukee Bucks. 1 seed throughout the entire playoffs. Best record, 59-23. Everything was pointing in the way of the Milwaukee Bucks. They had been rested. Officially, they hadn't played a game for an entire week, but some players hadn't really played in almost 2. After the Bucks clinched that 1 seed, there was really nothing else for the starters to do other than rest, heal, get ready for the playoffs. Again, everything pointing the Bucks' way. A lot of momentum. You would assume that they would win and they would dominate, but with assumption comes looking like an ass. And I think we all ended up looking like asses because what we forget is with any playoffs, it's often what team is the healthiest that determines these series and determines the champion. Because if you're the healthiest, you're more than likely playing the best. Health is a big factor in the playoffs. Doesn't matter what year. We all look like asses because we assumed that, okay, Bucks had time off. They should be just about at full strength. We're expecting them to run roughshod all throughout the playoffs. And then Giannis takes a nasty spill because Kevin Love decided to slide underneath him. Gets rewarded with the charge. Giannis takes the fall. And he hits the floor hard. I'm talking real hard. I'm talking the type of hard that you felt at home. When he was clutching his back and he's arching it, you did the same thing because you could hear the sickening thud. You could literally feel it. I feel it just thinking about it, just talking about it right here. Giannis is a guy that plays through just about anything. So when he goes to the locker room, you know it's serious. Because he doesn't do that. He would try to stay on the court. He'll wave off Bud like, no, I'm good. I'm going to play through it. Maybe he'll go to the bench for a little bit, but then he's checking right back in a couple minutes later. When he goes to the locker room, you know it's not good. So you hold your breath. and you're waiting on him to come back. And he does. But very gingerly. It's like, okay, he still don't look right to me, but he's going to give it a go. Maybe he needs to get warmed up again. Get loosened up again. And maybe he'll have that flow back to his game. Maybe he won't look like he's in so much pain. But that wasn't the case. This time, he leaves the game. He leaves the game for good. Does not return. Lower back contusion. The day after, Mike Budenholzer comes out and says, hey, there's optimism. We're optimistic and positive. He'll be able to play. Except just a few hours ago, as we record this program on a Tuesday night, the first injury report comes out and Giannis is listed as doubtful. Wesley Matthews is listed as out with a calf strain. But that lower back contusion of Giannis potentially keeping him out of game 2. Now, he's listed as doubtful, but he was also listed as doubtful in a couple of regular season games and ended up playing. And this is just the first injury report. Now, if they're already ruling Wesley Matthews out, he's out. But doubtful don't mean out. Not in Giannis's world. Not with the way he's able to take treatment and heal. But that was a very hard fall. And you're talking about a back, and backs are tricky. It takes me back to that Eastern Conference Finals series back in 2001 between the 76ers and the Milwaukee Bucks when Allen Iverson missed a game because of a tailbone injury. He missed one game. He came back, and I believe he dropped like 40. So he was fine after that. But you talk about Allen Iverson, a guy with a ton of heart. Another guy who played through anything. Much the same way as Giannis. So if that guy missed a game with that, you got to believe that Giannis is probably going to miss a game with this. So listed as doubtful currently doesn't quite mean he's out. But it tends to be trending that way, seeing as how he did not practice. That's always not a good sign. Game being Wednesday night. Bucks got business to handle. They've got to come out and be a lot better than they were on Sunday. I know, Captain Obvious here. But they do. Heat, one of the worst three-point shooting teams in all of the league. And I know that's wild to say with a guy like Tyler Hero, who, prayers up to him, broke his hand in Sunday's game. Actually broke 2 fingers, his middle finger and his ring finger. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So if we assume, again, being asses, that the Bucks get back on track, that means he's out for the rest of the playoffs. If he find a way to win 3 more against the Bucks, he's going to miss a good chunk of the playoffs. But definitely prayers up and speedy recovery to him. But the Heat, one of the worst three-point shooting teams. I believe they was 27th in the league in three-point shooting. And not only did the Bucks allow them to shoot nearly 60% from the field, actually 59.5% overall, you allow them to go 15 to 25 from 3. Really gave no effort in guarding the 3 whatsoever. You slink back into really, really, really old habits defensively. Call it shell shock from losing Giannis. Call it just one of those nights for the Heat. People tend to forget they're still professionals. When they get hot, they get hot. But the defensive effort in that game is really what shocked me. Not the whole bunch of one-on-ones after Giannis went out the game offensively. Drew had double-digit assists. Chris Middleton, 30-plus points again, I believe 33. He showed up, had a really good shooting day, but it was a lot of one-on-ones. There was no flow to the offense. Bobby Portis, another guy who had a tremendous game. But all based on isolations and one-on-ones. There was no real ball movement. There was no real opportunity for transition. They let the Heat completely take them out of that. And then they couldn't stop the Heat from scoring whatsoever, especially from three. You must put forth a better effort. Game 2. Because now, as it stands right now, Giannis being doubtful, you're going to have to go and get the job done regardless of who you've got. 11-8 in the regular season without Giannis. Let's not sit here and act like the Bucks don't know how to get it done without him. Take it back to the championship run. Giannis goes out with that hyperextended knee. He's out for games 5 and 6. Bucks go and win both of those games and make it to the NBA Finals. Let's not act like the Bucks don't know how to get the job done in the playoffs without Giannis. This is the first round. It's a back contusion. It's not like he's going to be lost for the rest of the playoffs. X-rays came back clean, which is a positive. But you have to think about game 2 and putting forth a better effort than you did in game 1, especially defensively, because that was, to me, that was the most jarring thing. Yeah, the injury is concerning, but you heard about the X-rays and all that. Okay, he's just going to need time to heal. Y'all got to go and get the job done regardless. But I never expected them to play like that defensively. You give up 130 points to the Heat. You allow them to go 15 to 25 from 3. You allow them to shoot 59.5%. That is not Milwaukee Bucks basketball. It's also not time to panic. That same night and the next day, you got all of the worst hot takes from everybody. It didn't matter if it was some members of national media. Didn't matter if it was some quote-unquote Bucks fans, Bucks Twitter. And I'm not saying everyone. So y'all can get up out my DMs on Twitter at the20double. Get up out my mentions. I'm not saying it's everybody, but a good chunk. Coming out with their hot takes and it's over, and you got the odds changing from the Bucks being the favorites for the NBA championship to the Celtics being the favorite, and this, that, and the third, and it's like, what are we doing? It's game 1. Most of that team had not played in 2 weeks. Your 2-time MVP got hurt and left the game. Played 11 minutes. You weren't able to knock the rust off. You were terrible defensively. You let a terrible three-point shooting team get hot and shoot wonderfully from 3. It's an anomaly. It's not time to panic. It's not time for hot takes. It's time to get to work. You got work to do. You got a game to win. Get game 2 on your home court. Go down to Miami. Handle business down there. See where you're at with Giannis and others who are missing. But it truly is, and I hate to use it because it's so cliche and it's so coach speak and such player speak, but it truly is one game at a time. You have to get game 2 first. before you can even worry about getting another game. You don't want to go down to Miami down 0-2 and give this team that much momentum. So Bucks, yeah, they lost game 1, 130-117. They lost Giannis in that game. Who knows for how long? He's doubtful for game 2. Wesley Matthews is out for game 2. But you still got to do what you got to do. Continuing here on Toss State of the State, let's talk Milwaukee Brewers. Let's talk Milwaukee Brewers. Now, I've said for the past couple of weeks, nobody expected this start out of the Brewers. I'm not even believing that some of those guys in the locker room thought that this was the type of start that was possible for this team. 12-5, first in the NL Central, just a game back of the Atlanta Braves for the best record in all of the NL. Coming off of a good weekend series win against the San Diego Padres, winning 3-1. Winning a 1-0 ball game. Devin Williams throwing 33 pitches in that game. Getting the job done. They start a series on Monday against the Seattle Mariners. I like how they brought that connection back in. I believe it's the first time they faced them since 2016, but they brought that connection in because the Brewers were once the Seattle Pilots, moved to Milwaukee, then became the Milwaukee Brewers. Won that ball game on Monday night, 7-3. Is a little bit of concern, though. Corbin Burns, that started that day. You know, came in, gave him 5 good innings. Came out for a 6, but really couldn't do it. Had to leave the ball game after turning in a rundown and tagging the player out. A minor pec strain is what they're calling it. Burns believes he'll be fine. Said it's something minor, but we also thought that it was something minor with Woodruff. And now Woodruff is on the IL. And I know they're being very cautious with these two. I mean, you talk about co-aces. But Burns, bouncing back from those first rough couple of starts, had his best start of the season against the Diamondbacks, 8 strong innings of shutout ball, 8 strikeouts, did not walk anyone, only gave up 3 hits. Comes back last night, 5 strong innings. Quite possibly would have gone longer had he not had that minor pec strain. But you do want to be cautious with him. And I get it. It's too early in the season to be trying to push it. Again, this team's strength is definitely within their pitching. You're talking, they're one of the better teams as far as pitching goes in the league. Their current team ERA is 3.06. That's third best in the majors. The only reason why it's not under 3 is because they played tonight. Coming into tonight, it was, I believe, at 2.94. They're playing the Mariners currently. That's gone up to 3.06. But that's still good for third in the majors with pitching, ERA. We knew one of their strengths coming into the season was going to be their pitching, and it is, and that bullpen, who, let's be clear, after the Hader trade last season, the whole team was really demoralized, but you really weakened your bullpen. The arms that you got back in that deal did not work out. It just was a completely deflated team. Couldn't do anything. And that was the strength of the team. Definitely didn't see them having a bounce back year like this, but they've been pretty shut down. They've gotten back to their old ways. Starters continue to go out there and put up quality starts. You get Woodruff back, you're going to get more of that. Burns said it's minor. He doesn't believe he'll miss his next start, but we'll see what the Brewers decide. But you keep him healthy. You've seen his last 2 starts. He's definitely bounced back. He's back to being the Corbin Burns that we all know and love. So we knew the pitching was going to be good. The biggest question mark was the offense for me. And to me, it didn't feel like they did a whole lot. It felt like they got a lot of guys that are kind of similar. They're going to go for launch angle, and they're going to try to hit the ball out the ballpark. They're not really going to try to get on base and play station to station and win runs one base at a time, or win games one base at a time. Score runs one base at a time. But this offense, at least through the first 17 plus games now, I mean, it's been a balanced attack. Brewers currently 7th in the majors in batting average. 8th overall in the majors in OPS, that's on base plus slugging. They're hitting the ball at the ballpark. They're tied for 6th in the majors with 23 home runs as a team. 87 RBI, 6th in the majors as a team. I mean, again, it's early. It's an early and a small sample size, 17 plus games. But if this is the type of stable, consistent offense the Brewers are going to put out with that pitching, they're going to be one of the better teams in the major leagues all year. It's exciting to see, but I'm not trying to get too hyped up over it because, again, it's been 17 games. It is very early, and it's a small sample size. And I feel like we've seen this before where the crew gets into a really good offensive groove for a few games, maybe even a week. And then the offense just disappears for 2 weeks. They can't scratch across a run. They've already been shut out, I believe, twice this season. And shutouts are going to happen. You're facing major league pitching. You're facing major league defenders. But I think a lot of the rules changes, especially with the shift, the pitching clock, has really benefited the Brewers. So if this is the type of consistent offense they're going to get, and you match it up with that powerful, powerful pitching, that really good quality pitching, whether it be from the starters or the bullpen, you're looking at one of the better teams in the major leagues. But I said it before, and I'll say it again. It's very exciting to think, okay, if this is the way it's going to be, this is going to be a hell of a year. But it's early. Let's not get it too overhyped. But so far, off to a great start. 12-5. Consistent with the pitching, consistent with the offense. So far, so good for the Brew Crew. And that's the state of the state. Bucks, yeah, they lose Game 1, they lose Giannis within game 1. Don't know if you'll have him for game 2. Don't know when you'll have him back. But you got to handle business. It is not time for hot takes. It is damn sure not time for panic. And the Milwaukee Brewers, 12-5, first in NL Central, consistent pitching, and to this point, consistent offense. You like what you see, but you got to see more of it. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. The toss sweep, brought to you by the good folks at tossnationmedia.com. Toss Nation Media, truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. I said it last week. I've been saying it week after week. That if you haven't had eyes on this iteration of the XFL, the third iteration of the XFL, you played yourself. It has been exciting. It has been excellent football. High stakes games all over the place, especially the last few weeks. Week 9 in the books, we moved to the final regular season game of the league. At least this season. I want to say of the league because we've dealt with that 2 times before. Of this season, week 10. But we got to talk about week 9 before we talk about week 10. And there were a lot of high stakes games in week 9 to be played. Now, Houston had to handle business. And they did. The Brahmas had to handle business to keep pace with the Renegades. The Renegades need to just win a game. I mean, they're sitting in that driver's seat for the second spot in the South. But the Brahmas handled business. The Renegades had a really tough game on the road in D.C. against the class of the XFL since week 1 in my mind, and the Defenders. Defenders are the ones that handle business. They clinch home field advantage for the North Division Championship game. Congratulations to them. 8-1. Arlington was game. They closed it in. They made a game of it. But in the end, D.C., they handled business. Renegades need to win. Renegades need to win. Brahmas need to win. There's a lot of high stakes with those two in week 10. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The game of the weekend for me, besides that D.C. game, because I knew that was going to be good because there's going to be some desperation football played by the Renegades, and there was. Again, they made a game of it. They made it close. Fantastic ball game. But D.C. handled business. But the game of the weekend for me, a rematch of a week 2 game, Seattle, St. Louis, this time in the Battle Dome in St. Louis. Battlehawks needed to win to clinch the second and final playoff berth in the North. The Sea Dragons right behind them. Sea Dragons go into the Battle Dome and handle business. They get the win. Now tied with the Battlehawks at 6-3. You talk about week 10 action. Trap games abound. Seattle has Orlando at home in the Battle Dome. St. Louis has Orlando in the Battle Dome at home. They have to win. They win, they're in. Because I believe the next tiebreaker, so let's say St. Louis beats Orlando and Seattle also at home, they have the Vegas Vipers. Now, don't sleep on Vegas and Orlando because they've been really scrappy and they've been playing much better over these past few weeks. They've had a chance to be spoiler. Haven't gotten it done on a consistent basis, but they've been scrappy. They've made teams earn it. It's been tough football games with them as of late. If Seattle and St. Louis both win, they'll both end up being 7-3 on the season. I believe the next tiebreaker after that is points scored. And Seattle would have the edge on that. St. Louis would have the edge on that. So for St. Louis, it's simple. They need to win. They need to win and they're in. For Seattle, it's a little bit more complicated. They have to win and they have to hope that the Guardians can pull another huge upset this season. Remember, they're the first and only team to have beaten the DC Defenders. Really good ball game, close ball game, 1 point. They have to hope Orlando beats St. Louis. So they're going to handle their own business. But St. Louis, they got to hope St. Louis drops it. So 2 huge games there. They both have to handle business, but yet Seattle needs a little bit more help. St. Louis, they win and they're in. They had that same situation against St. Louis wins and they're in. They had that same situation against Seattle in week 9. Winning your end situation, they couldn't get it done. We'll see if they can get it done in week 10, the regular season finale. DC, not really playing for much. I mean, they've already clinched the home field for the North Division Championship. They've already clinched the best record in the league. They're pretty much set. But the Brahmas are playing for something. The Brahmas could win. Arlington loses. Bit of chaos there with tiebreakers. Arlington has a tough game themselves against the leaders of the division and the Houston Roughnecks, who already clinched home field advantage for the South Division Championship. Arlington's got to handle business. The Brahmas have to handle business. I mean, it is just such high-stakes football with each of these games. It's just been a fantastic season. It really has been. And to come down to these final 4 games where there is something on the line for at least for all these teams. Guardians with a chance to upset St. Louis and possibly knock them out the playoffs. Brahmas with a chance to win a ball game and maybe get into the postseason. Arlington needs to win to hold off the Brahmas to get into postseason. And who they'll face the team that they're facing right now for the South Division Championship in the Houston Roughnecks. And Seattle, they got to handle business against the Vipers and hope that the Guardians pull the upset against St. Louis. So then it will be Seattle going to the playoffs as opposed to St. Louis in a highly competitive North Division. If you don't like high-stakes football, exciting football, close ball games, then no, the XFL ain't for you. But if you enjoy all that in your football, get eyes on the XFL. Because if you're not, you're losing. You're playing yourselves. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. That was episode 131 of Toss Tristain on Sports Show. You know where to find me on social media. At the20double on Twitter, on Instagram. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. At T-Squared on Fanbase. That's at TSQUARED on Fanbase. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Toss on Facebook. Touching on a lot of things there that we don't necessarily get a chance to on this show. That's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And of course, TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. It's been T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week. So long from Toss.